Welcome to the Lazy Podcast.
I feel the rush of the gummies.
The recording. Mm-hmm. Alrighty.
Welcome to the first day of the rest of your life and the show that we happen to call Talk Hard Pod.
Gas.
It's
about time.
I'm getting it every single time. I used to call it Talk Hard Radio because I really like the sound of that.
That's because he calls himself Marty Norman Media.
Marty Norman Media or Marty Norman Live. You decide. I don't care. We'll take a poll. Put a poll down there. What would you rather have? It doesn't matter.
I feel like Marty takes the voices in his head and he labels them with like media companies or just live or whatever he wants to do. And then here we go. Off to the races.
Bam, baby.
How many more voices are left?
It's a voice for every company that I plan to open.
Okay.
Opening companies. Let's talk about opening companies.
Let's talk about taking over companies.
Well, you can call it a takeover.
Well, most people are calling it a takeover. They're calling it a hostile takeover, actually.
Elon Musk is in the news again, ladies and gentlemen.
I love this guy. I swear to God, I do.
Huh?
He doesn't own a home and he stays at friends' houses.
Well, I feel like that's probably not true.
It's true.
Here's the thing. Okay.
I don't know.
Before we dive into this, the people that are talking negatively about this man have never done any research on this man. He started PayPal.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's where he made his first bunch of money.
I like
and
PayPal.
he did this by coding at night, I believe, while his brother was asleep, and then his brother would take over during the day. Like, they were nonstop to build this company in the era during a time when the internet had like just popped off. This was prior 2000, I believe he said like 95, right? It was all about understanding people. I also didn't know that Elon Musk has Asperger's.
So I've seen
Or a
many
spectrum of it.
Yeah, he's on the spectrum from what I understand. He's incredibly
Which makes sense.
It does in so many regards.
Yeah.
It does. Like this is
the
where
most beautiful ways. I'm not trashing Asperger people with Asperger's on any level. I think that is one of the most amazing experiences because I've known a few people, and it is amazingly fascinating.
it's a beautiful mind thing,
absolutely.
You know. And people on the spectrum, you know, I'm not saying there's a lot of them that is debilitating, right? Sure. But there is some that are just on it, and it seems to me, and I actually, you know, kind of jealous in a way because I feel like there's a lot of these people who are on the spectrum, and they are far more advanced than we are mentally.
Oh yeah.
You know, and maybe even emotionally in every other regard as well. It just seems to me, and I could, you know, I'm sure there'd be lots of people in the comments be like, "Oh, you don't understand." It's just, I get it. Okay, fine.
I don't understand.
I'm ignorant to a lot of it.
No, I don't understand. You're absolutely right, and that's fine. There are the what I call arrogant people that are like, well, they're socially awkward, and I'll bet to you. Like, to them, you are socially awkward, right?
You're a
like,
weirdo.
It's perspective, right?
You're a weirdo. That's why I'm awkward around you, because you're weird.
On this particular person, I'd say he's doing just fine.
Yeah.
He is changing the world.
Literally.
And so,
literally,
this is a man who, like, lived in a tiny-ass apartment so that he could build something.
From the mud, man. I like to
build something.
Yes.
And during one of the hardest times of the Tesla integration, he literally slept on the warehouse floor so that his employees could understand that he is going through it with them.
Yeah,
I have respect for that.
I do too. You know, and I remember when the weed thing, when he smoked the joint on Rogan's,
like, plummeted for.
Yeah, well, you know, what everybody put it on there is like, oh, Elon Musk smokes weed, and I saw the little clip of it. Couldn't find out he don't even smoke weed like that. He just did it to be on. I guess you're a lot more accepted on Joe Rogan if you might take a little puffy puff.
Peer pressure.
He said, I obviously don't know how to smoke.
He's like, I do not know how to do this. And if you watched him hit the joint, it solidified that.
But so he recently, he had already owned part of Twitter, like he owned 9.2%.
9%.
And so that made him in a seat for like a board member, but he wanted more, right?
Well, my understanding is, so he came out about buying stock, right? He bought 9% of Twitter's stock. And then with the intention that from what I understand, the intention that the platform's not being used as it should be, as it could be, and he sees a lot of potential in the Twitter page and in the social media in the world and economics and politics and all these things. Most importantly, freedom of speech.
And here's the big thing that I want to touch on when it comes to that. I understand the censorship on a certain level. Okay, bullying and just flat out attacking people, I get it. We can put a little bit of a nip in the bud on that one. Like, I do understand that on some level. What I don't like is that whoever is sitting writing the code gets to dictate what that looks like. So they're setting the standard, and I don't know who awarded this person the right to set the standard.
Probably the board. It's probably the whole board.
So they've set the standard, and now we don't know what's happening. They censor you and don't really tell you why. So one of his big moves was, I want it to be known when something is edited and when something has been changed. I want the person to be aware, or even it to be public. I want it to be aware of why this happened.
Yeah.
Right. So they're not saying don't watch the social media aspect of it. They're just saying tell people what's going on and why, so that they still feel like they understand what's going on. Not this whole, we're just going to silence you and we're not going to tell you what's going on.
Well, and the reason there's a reason for that, right? Mm-hmm. Because they don't have a good reason. It's a bunch of, and I'm not saying liberal
sounds about right.
Liberal or conservative is, I'm not going to tell you which one's right and which one's wrong. That's for you to decide. But I'm just saying that the board on Twitter is all liberals, from what I understand, and they're running it at a liberal social media platform. Right? So therefore, anybody that's conservative, anybody that's talking about conservative things or conservative people, or they're getting banned without any reason, right? Because they don't want to just say, you're conservative, you can't be on our platform.
They're getting a reason. It goes against our community standards.
Right. And you know, it's just like the fact checkers, you know, it's just it's a bunch of BS, and what it is, it's against conservative thinkers. It's against, I'm going to say this, it's against freedom of speech. Period. End of story.
Now there is the reality that, you know, like Facebook, these companies, they're still companies that do have the right to technically do whatever they want. Technically, I mean, we don't own them. So I can't tell. It'd be like me telling you, you need to treat patients a certain way because I feel a certain way about it. Like, that's not fair, technically. Like, I do understand the technical side of it is still a company, and we can't, like, tell Toyota they need to make their tires with all nitrogen because I believe it's better than air. Like, I can't do that because I don't own the company. It is still a company.
Well, here's the thing about a company, right? So a company such as this, where there's public stocks. Mm-hmm. First and foremost, that's controlled by the FCC. The FCC has regulations and laws in place to protect the public stock above all. Like, that's the number one in these FCC regulations. And that's the problem with having a company with board members and public stocks and this and that, because you got the FCC where they step in and they protect certain things. There's certain things allocated for this and this and this, and then you got board members who decide these things within the realms of the FCC. Now, but and I think this is what Elon did. He went in there and he bought 9%, right? And he publicly let that know. He let that go and told people the stocks went up. Because Elon Musk is in it, so of course the stocks are going to go up, mm-hmm. right? But then he got in there, and because what he likes in it is that it has potential to be an amazing platform for freedom of speech. Inherently, it's going to be, you know, for our society as a democracy, right? It's going to be good, and that's important to have freedom of speech for a democracy in a society such as this,
right?
But when he got in there and they asked him to join the board, he realized that he could not transform this Twitter, this platform, with the way that it's structured, the setup that it's structured, the board members, the people that's involved, the FCC.
Right. So he takes it, which still cracks me up. He offered them 40% above market value.
54%, 52,
$54.
$54.
With the way it's trending, because they have like an analyst that reviewed it, and it's actually been technically losing money because it's losing steam because of all of the bad media. And
Let's get real. Let's get real. Twitter sucks. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? Twitter sucks lately.
So it was analyzed. It's somewhere near like, I think $38 to $40. And he was just like, I'll just buy the whole thing.
He said, you know what? I can't change it from within.
So I'll just buy it.
I'll do what Elon Musk does, and I'll offer you, what is it, 73 billion? 54? What? It's a lot of billion. It's like $70 billion. Yeah. Let's just round it up. $70 billion. I'll just buy it, and I'll pay you cash.
And then,
I do not love this dude.
So now there are people that are jumping on talking all kinds of trash, which again, people are anybody that
first off, let's not overlook this. He said, I'll give you cash.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So I was listening to another podcast this morning. There's a power play happening. So Jeff Bezos recently bought MGM Studios, right?
Oh, okay.
Okay, so now he is Amazon. And now part of a media company on some level, right?
Okay.
He's controlling the movie studios and what they get to dictate and how they get to put out messages, right? Because now as the owner of the studio, ultimately your say is what goes.
I don't know much about him, but I can say this. I don't know anything about the movie Hollywood and whatnot. It needs a good shaking up. That's all I'm saying.
So the ultimate move, what they're saying is next, Elon needs to buy somebody like CNN. Seriously, that's what they're saying. Like this is like when you can offer somebody, let's just put it this way, anybody on the board would be stupid to turn down the offer for Twitter because it would make them ridiculously wealthy because it's a massive jump that you don't see that kind of a profit margin that fast in a company that is going downhill.
Twitter sucks, and everybody knows it. And it's due to the banning of people. It's due to the freedom of speech and taking people off, and conservatives can't get on there, and all this thing. So it's plummeted. It's junk. They would be stupid because look, when Elon bought 9%, it went up how many? 50-some% you just said?
I don't know. It was something ridiculous.
So when he bought the 9% of the shares, the stock actually went up like 58%. Right? So that right there alone, he basically what he said is, I'm offering you $70 billion cash. Take it or leave it. If you don't take it, I'm going to reevaluate my stock holding options. Basically, he's saying, I'm going to sell it. I'm going to get out, and you guys are going to go to shit. You guys are going to plummet. You guys are going to fail.
Yeah. So my big thing with this whole entire thing is that I can appreciate somebody when you have that kind of money that is saying, I am willing to take the biggest risk, and I'm willing to overpay to restore humanity.
That's what it is.
That's really where he stands. If you've ever listened to the guy, I've listened to his TED Talks. I've watched interviews on this man. I watched the whole entire thing on it. He genuinely wants to impact the world and is a leader in the innovation of doing it. What he saw with space exploration was a massive problem. It was too expensive. All these things were looking downhill. How do you advance humanity without exploring what's out there? So he actually bought two, I forget what they're called, but missiles from Russia, so that he could learn. He's not a rocket scientist in reality. He just kind of the Tony Robbins aspect. I'm just going to go find the best of the best. He took half of his money from
re-engineering the rockets. Is that what he did?
Just a better, cheaper way to do it. Not only that, more sustainable. He's also found better ways to cut down on traffic. He's found better ways
environmentally
to actually explore space better by better burning fuels when you launch these rockets, like to actually land the rocket, the spacecraft, back down on Earth and not lose hundreds of millions of dollars every time we want to go explore. Like, this man is all about humanity, and yet he makes a move on Twitter, and now all of a sudden he's a pile of crap.
Well, everybody, people, and look, let's be honest. What you said is exactly how I feel too. Elon Musk cares. 1, about this country, and 2, about the world, and 3, about humanity as a whole. Right? He does. It's obvious. He's got me. It's really hard to get me buffaloed, when somebody's speaking. So, I believe him. I believe in him, and he's not buying Twitter to make money.
It's not a power play.
It's
This
not,
is not a power play.
I mean, it depends on what you look at. It's a power play if you want to look at it this way. He cares about freedom of speech. He cares about democracy. He cares about our country. He cares about the world. Then he's like, I got to make a power play.
Okay.
Okay, it's not a power play based on economics.
Okay, let me rephrase that. It's not a control play.
There you go. I like it because people. He's 30. What did I say? $70 million, or is it 30?
It's billion.
70 billion or 30 billion. I can't remember. I think it's 70 billion. And he doesn't care about making. I'm sure he's going to make his money back, but he doesn't care about making the money. He cares about having a platform where people can freely talk about what they need to talk about within the realms of the law, of course. And that's important.
He feels like, in the last interview that I watched on him, is what he is genuinely feeling like is what's happening with the control aspect of things is we're actually separating the world in such a greater fashion than we've ever seen before. The more that you separate the right from the left, and I'm using air quotes with this because ultimately that doesn't matter, like, it's still perspective on it, right? Like, people would view me as a Republican, yet I was literally, I followed Andrew Yang. I was literally following this man because I genuinely had a compassion and a passion for what he was speaking on, and was like, I want to hear more.
Right.
And if you want to create a genuine change with what you're saying, I will back you. Mm-hmm. I am not stuck in this form of politicizing anything. Like, I'm all about what you want to do as the leader of the free world in reality. So I will back whoever has the right vision. And your stance on it means nothing to me because I understand that there's still government, there's still, the House and Senate, there's still so much more at play that goes on with it. Having the right person in the right seat, I really don't care which side you land on. Genuinely, I don't. I care about what your vision is for the future and how you want to get there.
Based on economics, based on humanity,
Yep.
based on, freedoms, based on the Constitution of the United States,
right?
Which I love, based on, humanity as a whole. I mean, we have so many visionaries who have a vision, but they don't have the broad spectrum of visions of what it actually takes, because there's all different types of facets going on in our. I'm just going to talk about our country. All different facets going on, and your vision is this because we're worried about offending people, and we had to have this kind of freedom and this kind of freedom. When it impedes on other freedoms and other sovereignties, that's when it's a problem. You got to learn we have to learn, and a lot of people, a lot of visionaries out there, they have that broad spectrum. They have economics, we got this, we have rights, we have humanity, we have all these things that we have to look at. And if one of my visions impedes on one or more of the others, then it's just not worth it. We got to figure out a way to find that happy medium in it.
Here's my thing when it comes down to that, and why I'm still on board with what he's trying to do, is the reality of it is you can't make everybody happy.
No.
It's just not possible, and it shouldn't be anybody's job, right? Everybody needs to be controlled by their own happiness and understand where we are at, period. And you make the best of where you're at, we've talked about this before, we go into this victim role, like everybody right now is bitching on Twitter. He's a man that never worked for anything, and I'm like, you sound like an idiot.
Man that never worked for anything. My God.
You have no clue what you're literally just typing away on your keyboard on a fake name where no one will find out who you are, and that's fine. I stand up here or sit down here, face on screen, and I will tell you exactly how I feel. Because this is who I am. Like it or not. And there's plenty of people out there that don't like me, and I'm okay with that.
You have to be.
I am perfectly fine with
that. Well,
and
that's the thing about freedom of speech. It's not freedom of speech as long as it makes me happy. It's like he has a different view. He is totally opposite of mine, and it offended me. Okay,
which is now viewed as bullying.
Which is, I mean, come on, wait. Woke generation that's still sleeping. I don't know, man. That's the whole point. If something if something doesn't, you don't like something, you kind of get it out of your circle. I feel like everybody wants, and there's this, there's a political party, there's a political agenda to this one side, and it just so happens this one side kind of took over a lot of the news stations, which the news medias and the social media platforms, they have a way of influencing people's minds in such a way that it becomes a belief, because you can talk about one thing so prolifically, so right, but if you don't understand what that one side is doing to this and this and this, then you're going to believe that. It's these free thinkers and open-mindedness where you got to say, okay, that sounds great, but where else what does this mean to everything else? And that's where we mess up, because we don't have freedom of speech on social medias, because if we talk about things that the people who own it and the board members, they just ban us. So therefore, you only get to hear one side, one vision, one political stance.
There was another thing on this podcast, and I will look for this while I'm trying to speak at the same time. I can't do two things at the same time sometimes.
You should have been looking while I was speaking. That would have made sense.
It really would have, but I believe it was from 1943, and somebody brought this up today. 1943.
I don't know. My opinion, while you're looking, is that a lot of these billionaires, I think this needs to be a trend. I think we get the power out of the hands that try to take away our freedoms and our sovereignties. Even if I believe, I disagree with so much, but that's your right to talk about it. That is your right to be that way. That is your right to feel that way. And I am not going to hate you for it. And I need to hear it. I need to hear it, because I might be some truth in that whole big bunch of horse garbage. That might be one little bit of truth that I need. When you take all the horse garbage away and I don't hear any of it, then I don't get that one little truth. And I think that's important to freedom of speech.
It's definitely important.
It's important to democracy. It's important to our country. It's important to all of us as a whole.
What I was searching here was, okay, so 1943, the original Titanic was a Nazi propaganda film.
Before the actual Titanic?
Before it came to America I think it was 1950 something, and then got remade with Leonardo DiCaprio kind of situation. Like the original Titanic, you can Google this. Google 1943 Titanic, and it'll show a Nazi propaganda film. The Titanic embarks on its inevitable collision course with history in the wake of overspending required to build the largest luxury ship. The White Star Line executive schemes to reverse the direction of his company's plummeting the stock value. On board, this brave German officer, Hans Nielsen,
of course, his
struggles
Hans.
to convince his self-important
They
British
didn't have any
superiors.
other names over there. It's all Hans.
So when I'm talking about with these power plays, and you look at
Hold on, though. Titanic, though. I'm Squirrel. So this happened as a crashing ship, so to speak, metaphorically.
Yeah, so
and then we named a ship, an actual ship, after this damn movie? Is that how it went down?
It's what it seems like. I haven't done all that research. I was just hearing all these things, and what I'm saying is...
That was inevitable then.
The people that owned the movie company at the time used it for their political gain, right?
Sure.
We call it subliminal messaging. Whether anybody believes in it or not, it's a very real thing.
Everybody knows it's true.
Nazis
were very good at
that
it.
are subtle to shift your psychological perspective on things, because you bring an emotion to it and you get attached to it on some form or fashion. And the better the movie, I mean, we can all talk about The Notebook, and there are movies that have shifted time because of what emotion you felt while watching it, which is crazy when you think about it, because we all think about just normal fun movies, right? When you think about
movies are a lot
behind the scenes and what it is capable of is quite dangerous. I mean, Disney's been under fire forever because you find little penis inside the castle. They've been under fire forever.
It's just a little penis.
They're talking about what was it on The Little Mermaid when she was sitting on the rock? There's a penis behind her or something stupid, inside the rock quarry. Yeah, these
People are seriously stretching.
These
Like,
people are just being weird.
oh my
right?
God, I seen it.
Watch what I'm gonna do. I'm a,
It's a
I'm gonna hide the
penis.
penis in the rocks. Like
It's a penis.
all I'm saying is like
I'll get him banned.
there's
Cancel
there's
culture.
always more to the story.
Yeah.
So in this move with Elon Musk, people are not understanding the reality of the world that we live in because we have made the abnormal normal.
Cancel culture. Just saying it.
And so, speaking of the abnormal normal, one that is still sitting tough with me, and I'm going to speak about it whether anybody wants to hear about it or not.
Here we go.
The law in Florida that's been under fire about allowing the schools to teach about sexual orientation K through third grade. Okay? So here's my problem.
I'm doing so good at shutting up.
Here is my problem. It is scientifically known that a kid's belief system is very, very susceptible to things until the age of about 7 or 8. So why are they fighting so damn hard to bring these belief systems into schools when you know it's an area where a kid has no defense against this? That is where their belief system is built. So we are now shoving these things. And look, if you want to teach that to your kids at home, have at it. That is none of my business. It is not my child. But in a public school, you do not get to teach my child something that I don't have a say in.
Especially something about sex or sexual orientation. I'm sorry. It seems really inappropriate for a teacher.
So it's become this big thing. And people
Can I have you got duct tape? Can you put it on my mouth, please? No, damn.
I just find it, again, call me conspiracy theory, but I find it convenient that they're fighting so damn hard. After third grade, no one's saying a word about it because kids now have a better understanding of how to think for themselves. They are really fighting for this whole process of why are you putting it here when you know the kids are super susceptible and there are children genuinely getting hurt. You are hurting children, period. You do not have the right, and here is where I'm going to go ahead because I do have a belief system in God. You can't teach a kid about God, but you can let a kid in kindergarten decide what sex he wants to be that morning. I'm sorry. I got a problem with this. If you want to teach one, teach the other. You don't get to pick and choose. You don't get to decide what's best for my child. In reality, most parents don't, in theory, know what's best for their children. Now on a base level, don't do drugs and don't run in the street and look both ways. This is all basic stuff. There's a book on it, everything I need to know I learned in kindergarten, right? So there's basics to it.
I got my
right?
first whipping in kindergarten.
There's very much basics to it.
I wish they'd bring back that.
But I'm having a hard time with the fight.
It was a
fighting
paddleboard.
so hard to make sure that these kids are
here's
getting indoctrinated with stuff, in my opinion. I haven't said that word yet on this podcast, but I'm going to say it. When a kid doesn't have a decision in the matter because they really don't know how to think for themselves yet, it's scientifically proven. Now you're indoctrinating.
Well, I think that's what we do in a lot of
You
colleges.
do it in college, kids. I hate whatever. You're an adult at that point. You should be able to differentiate.
Well, it just
A child doesn't.
here's
We're talking
what
about Santa Claus still.
Here's what I love about our country is that it was founded with the belief system that if you didn't until the federal government got its fingers in, and until we allowed, I'm going to put it that way, because until we allowed the federal government to impede on everything that we do, which is what a socialist country does. And we're not there yet, but let them do it and we'll be there. But one thing I love about this country is it was founded on the fact that if you don't like the laws and statutes and the things inside your state, you have the freedom to leave. Right? And I think that's where we got to get back to. It's on a state law regulations on what you want, If you go out in California, and we're well aware of what California is, and how their political stance are and what they are. If you want that type of stuff, move to California, and you can have that. If you don't like it, you move to Florida. the federal government being involved in anything, it just stops states from having any sort of power like they do in Florida. Like he has the power in Florida to say, I don't want this. This isn't going to happen in my state, and you can stop it. Period.
1000%.
That's how it's designed. That's what makes our country great, is this independent states making their own laws based upon, some federal regulations, which by far are way too much nowadays because we allowed it to happen.
Well, the simplest form of it is what I don't understand is that we're not telling you what to do inside your home. This is just not something you bring to the schools. You can't take God out of the school and then put in, you get to choose what sex you
when
are
was
this
sex
morning.
ed? Do you remember when sex ed was when you was a kid?
It was much older.
It was like in ninth grade.
Mine was 5th grade.
Yeah, it was.
What was it?
It was right before junior high.
So 8th, 9th grade, right? That's sex ed. That's like saying we're gonna have sex ed at the age of 4 or 5.
We are having sex
That's
at
what
the
I
age
meant.
of 4 and 5.
And yeah, I get that.
Like,
I'm
what's
just gonna
next?
stay quiet.
All I'm saying is, what's next? Like, we got so many problems with when people can drive. We got so many problems with when people can vote. We got so many problems with when people can own a gun. We got so many problems with when people can get married. And
Buy cigarettes.
And now they're trying to make all these other things legal. Like, where does it stop? Like, at what point do we get back to the basics of hundreds of years of things that did work? I'm not talking about all this other social injustice that did happen, because slavery was real and all these other things did happen. That's change that needs to happen. I get that. But we're talking about messing with children's minds.
So, guys, what do you think? I want to hear.
I would love to hear about
we
this.
need to hear from you guys in the
'Cause
comments.
I can definitely be wrong in this, and I'm fine with that. Just tell me why.
So Brian could be wrong. He could be wrong. And he wants to know, and I want to know, in the comments below, right down there, what do you guys think about what Florida's doing? I don't know what the act is called. I don't know what the bill is called. It's something, there's a something, keep gay. I don't know what it is. But you guys, obviously, you might know what we're talking about. It's talking about, sexual orientation to your children at the age of 4 and 5. I'm not saying anything about what I believe.
It's
is
between
what
the
it
ages
is.
of 4 and 8, I believe.
4 and 8.
And
4 and
that's my only problem with it is, again, you want to do it at home, I don't care. It's not my kid. You would do it at home. That's your business. If you want to dive, I sometimes think parents should dive deep into what their kids want.
I absolutely think that this is not a teacher's job. This is a parent's job.
Right.
This is an absolute parent's job. That's the only thing I'm going to say. Is like, when it comes to sexual orientation, if you're gay, straight, bilingual, is that the right word? I don't think so. But if you're any of that, like, that's a parent's conversation. A teacher's job is to teach me math and science and stuff I'll never use the rest of my life. That's their job.
Right.
What do you guys think in the comments, though?
Yeah, I fully agree. I just want to know when it stops. Like, I am going to go full conspiracy on this and say I think they're really doing it for an ultimate different reason, and I don't like it. I'm not the conspiracy theorist type, but what I know about how sensitive a child's mind is to things when they're at that very particular age, I have a problem with it.
We'll join us on the next episode. We love you guys.
All right.
We'll
Have
see
a good
ya.
one. See ya.